In this video, we're going to talk about network address translation, or NAT. So let's start with the definition. What is network address translation? It is a scheme that makes it possible to share a single IP address among multiple hosts. So for example, let's say you have a home router, and typically what happens is you are given an internet IP address by an internet service provider, but that is only a single IP, but you have so many devices or hosts in your home network. So there has to be a way to somehow share that single IP provided by your ISP among all these different devices at home. So laptops, desktops, cell phones, tablets, etc., they're all sharing the same internet IP, in this case using this scheme called network address translation. So network address translation allows you to share a single IP address, in this case, among all these multiple hosts or devices. So here is a typical scenario shown in a picture. As you can see, there is this router. Typically you have a home router at home, and you have a switch that allows multiple devices to get connected to the router, and you have individual devices like this. So the devices get connected to the switch like this, and then the switch is connected to the router. So this constitutes basically your home network right here. And typically what happens is the switch here is usually built into the router, so the switch and the router typically comes in a single device. So that's why you only see a single device, but logically speaking, you have a switch part and a router part built into a single piece of hardware when you see a router. And then the router is, of course, connected to the internet like this. And your router's connection to the internet has only single IP to work with. So let's say it's something dot something dot something dot something like this. But then to differentiate these different hosts in your home network, you still have to have individual IP addresses that are only used within your home network. So typically what you see is an address like 192.168 and a subnet ID, and then a number, a host ID. So in this case, I'll just say the host ID is 2 or something, okay, for host 1. And then for host 2, we could use this private IP address 192.168, and then subnet ID, whatever that is, and then the host ID, I mean in this case, has to be different from host 1, so that you can distinguish these different hosts in your home network. And then when it's time for you to get out of your own home network and go out to the internet, what has to happen is these source IP addresses from host 1 and host 2, they have to be translated into this legitimate internet IP, which is x.x.x.x in this case, so that when there is something that needs to come back from the internet to your home network, whatever is on the other side, it can use that legitimate internet IP to send a packet back to the router. And then the router, when it receives a packet from a host in the internet or on the internet, it has to somehow remember what initiated that connection, and then somehow send the packet to the right host that initiated the whole connection. So let's say host 2 initiated the connection, then the destination IP in this case originally was x.x.x.x sent from the internet, but that needs to be translated into something more specific within the home network, in this case 192.168x.3. So as you can see, in this scenario you actually require a lot of translations between the IP addresses, and that's one of the reasons why this scheme is called network address translation. The range of the most commonly used private IP addresses used in NAT is shown in the slide. That is 192.168.0.0 through 192.168.255.255. So this is what you get to see most commonly, but there are other ranges of private IP addresses used in NAT, including the following. For example, 10.0.0.0 through 10.255.255.255, 172.16.0.0 through 172.31.255.255, 169.254.0.0 through 169.254.255.255. NAT is in general helpful for security because it hides the network topology of an internal network from outsiders. So all the intimate details of your private network are hidden from these potential attackers outside your network, because the individual IP addresses of your private network hosts are all represented by a single IP address, an internet IP address, once they leave this NAT router.